I'm Aaron from PhoneDoc.com, and it's time for another Boneyard. If you remember number 1, you remember the V3c, that barrage we tested? Well, I'm back with another phone in the Boneyard. It's episode 2, and I've got one of the bestest, most cool phones out there of all time. No, literally, of all time. It is the Motorola RAZR. Now, I'm not talking about that crazy stuff like the Droid RAZR, all that foolishness that Motorola's released in an attempt to rekindle the name. I'm talking about the Mac Daddy, the big boy here, the V3M with Verizon Wireless. Actually, this is the V3c. It was so important, they released 2 on Verizon, the V3c and the V3M, and they're successors of the V3, which debuted on AT&T. That's a lot of V3s and all kinds of different configurations, but I've got one thing to tell you. This ain't your mama's RAZR hater. This is an awesome Motorola RAZR coming from Motorola with an awesome LCD display on the outside, a big old display. Hey, it doesn't cut on your face, it doesn't hurt, because it's a RAZR, but it's not a real RAZR. It's like a fake RAZR. It's like a small, thin phone. Take a look at that form factor. Don't you remember that thinness? It's super awesome. Got a nice little hump down here, so when you're making those phone calls, that microphone's really close to your mouth, and they know exactly what you're going to say. Let's take a look at this in the Boneyard, but first, some love to Best Buy Mobile, because at some point, like 28 years ago, they sold this phone. So when you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you're going to walk out working. When you upgrade your phone to something that's a little bit more important, they're going to help you get this phone over to the Smithsonian so they can put it in their museum collection. Let's take a look at this. Motorola RAZR V3c. It's Boneyard time. Let's take a look and see. Is this the RAZR you want in your house? Let's have a look. It may be 5:24 on the clock, but it's always a good time to own a RAZR. Now, this is the Motorola Droid RAZR V3c, and there's a horse that comes preloaded. That's kind of what they sound like, right? Like a horse, but it comes preloaded. Actually, it doesn't come preloaded. Actually, it was on this device when I got it. Bonus, +1 win. But you can see the V3c, and let's do a rundown of the specs of this bad boy. This was on Verizon back around 2005, 2006. Got that Verizon logo on the back. You remember this bad boy. This was a svelte little mother with an awesome battery, an awesome thin style, and an awesome RAZR-like form factor. Sometimes you'd be in the bathroom, you'd leave it on the counter, somebody mistake it for their RAZR, they'd be shaving their face, and they were like, oh, wait a second, I'm using my phone to shave my face. In fact, this thing is so cool that it doesn't even charge on its own anymore. I gotta keep it plugged into the wall to do this Boneyard video for you. That's how cool this bad boy is. I took it just out of the Smithsonian. They let me borrow it for a couple of minutes or a couple of hours because they were like, it's always good to do a Boneyard video, but usually this bad boy sits in the museum. Now, this thing was so cool, if you remember, that Motorola released like 87 revisions of this phone. There was the V3c, the V3M, the V9M, the V9X, the V9, just so many of them. The RAZR 2, the RAZR, remember that RAZR Max? No one really liked that phone, but the RAZR Max, I'm just kidding. A lot of people like that phone, but you can see a camera up here, a megapixel camera. It's got 65,536 colors on the display with a horse as well, and it's got, it's 3.49 ounces. It's got 215 hours of standby time when the battery's not old and busted like this one is, because it's an old phone. It's got 1,000 contact storage entry capabilities, so you can store all your friends. Let's be honest, you were that guy, you were in high school, you were in middle school, you got your RAZR phone, you saved up with that allowance money so you could put your friends in there and be like, that's a RAZR phone, yeah, what? And then that's basically what you said, and everybody kind of stared at you and laughed. But anyway, you got 1,000 contacts, so you can put all 10 or 12 of your friends in there and have plenty left. And you could do like what I used to do, where it was like I wanted to have more friends, so I could be like Pizza Hut, Domino's, Jimmy John's. I got all those numbers in there, and they're all my friends, right? Because I order food from them. Exactly right. And then you got 30 megabytes of internal storage. You got buttons over here, you got buttons over here, volume rocker, all kinds of crazy buttons. And then you got not an internal camera. So you got no internal camera on this bad boy, but you got a metallic keypad with some awesome laser-etched awesomeness with a camera shortcut button up here. Now you see this Verizon interface. You remember this because it was popular on all those old devices from Verizon between 2005 and about 2008. You remember this red color scheme, and I remember being really excited when the LG VX kind of 7000, 8000 series rolled around and you were able to change the colors from red to like blue and purple and green, because let's just be honest, red's pretty depressing. I mean, I don't want to come into my phone and be like, red, it just makes me sad after a long day. Red's not the color I want to see, but you see you got these 5 tabs, recent calls, settings and tools, get it now, messaging and contacts. Remember get it now, get tunes and tones, and I can come in here and take pictures and more. So I can come in here and let's say I'm going to take pics, not pictures, but pics with an X. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to load it up, and you can see 640 by 480 pics on my megapixel camera, and I can come down here and take a picture of my tripod and one of my lights, and you could see that blurry goodness, but it didn't matter back then because you were really just sharing pictures between phones, and when you took it off the phone and put it on email, and nobody really cared. It was a blurry picture, you know. But I will say, that horse picture came out pretty awesome. That must be a special horse on that bad boy. But take a look at how small this thing is. Even when closed, you got a nice hump down here at the bottom. It was a styling phone. It was a bad, bad mother back in the time. You got your D-pad here and a button that does some things over here, and you got some big numbers. So I can come down here and I'll say 704-555-1-2-3-4. And you can see it comes up in big numbers. Actually, for whatever reason, it used to irritate me that all these numbers showed up on separate lines. But that's okay. That's a story for another time, guys. Because, you know, you're here for the Motorola RAZR and the Boneyard. So let's take a look. Recent calls, settings and tools. You got airplane mode. You got display. You can come in here and change the wallpaper. I remember how exciting it was to change the wallpaper, the display themes. You can change your greeting. Let's change this to horse. Man. I'm a horseman. Horse man. And I can hit OK. And now I don't see my greeting, but that's okay. It's going to be here in a minute. Maybe it just doesn't show up. I don't know why it's not showing. Oh, it shows up at the beginning. When I turn the phone off and back on, it's going to pop up. It's just like we'll show you here, because all I have to do is unplug it, because it just powers right off. Because this is an unauthorized charger, so it's not even charging. Remember those days where Motorola used to do those unauthorized chargers? We're bringing back some good memories right here. So we're starting up the video, starting up the logo rather, Verizon Wireless, and you're going to see Horseman pop up on the screen. So you could say anything crazy. You could be like, I'm a phone nerd. Unauthorized charger pops up first, but that's okay. It's going to pop up. So it didn't actually pop up, but you got your network ID here, Verizon Wireless, and you can see that typical little V logo up there. So hey, it's a pretty bad device. This thing was a Mac Daddy when it came out, and even though more phones have come out since that are decidedly cooler, this is still the phone you should carry if you want to be a bad boy and live in the early 2000s. You know, you're retro, you wear kind of crazy stuff, you wear those bell-bottom jeans, and you drive an old car. This is going to be the device for you, and you're going to fit in perfectly with this little mamma jamma. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com, because there's more Boneyard series on the way. Lots more Boneyard phones to take a look at. But the V3c was definitely the Mac Daddy when it came out. It was the hopping phone that everybody wanted. All those youngsters wanted, and even some of the older people wanted it too, because it was thin, it was light, and easy to carry around in the pocket. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Me on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron. Let me know what you think about the V3c.